For 3 weeks in a row, every single Tuesday at exactly 6 a.m., my trash can was completely destroyed. Not by strong winds, not by stray animals, by Bethany Thornfield, the president of our HOA, slamming her white Lexus straight into it like the bin had personally insulted her. I stood there in my driveway staring at the disaster. The plastic container was crushed and split apart. Coffee grounds smeared across nearly 20 feet of concrete. Banana peels hung from my mailbox like some kind of nightmare decoration. The smell of spoiled garbage mixed with leaking motor. Oil was enough to make my stomach turn. Mrs. Cecilia leaned over her fence and whispered that Bethany had reversed her SUV, hit the bin again, then sat there laughing while trash scattered everywhere. That laugh turned out to be the biggest mistake she could have made, because Bethany had no clue I worked as an electrician. And she definitely didn't know I was already planning to replace that weak plastic trash can with something far more permanent, something her Lexus would never forget. So tell me this, what would you do if your HOA nightmare lived right next door? And where are you watching from today? Because to understand how insane this situation became, you need the full story. My name is Lucian Delroy, and 2 years ago I moved into Willowbrook, estates hoping it would be a fresh start for me and my daughter Savannah. After my wife passed away from cancer, I thought a peaceful suburban neighborhood with decent schools would help my grieving 16-year-old survive her senior year. Turns out I couldn't have been more wrong. I'm 42 years old, a union electrician with hands rough from decades of crawling through attics, pulling wire and rewiring old houses. My job teaches you that every problem has a system behind it. Find the flaw and you can solve almost anything. But I'd never dealt with someone like Bethany Thornfield before. Imagine perfectly styled silver hair that never moved even in heavy wind, expensive designer sweaters that probably cost more than my truck payment, and a spotless white Lexus polished so perfectly you could see your reflection in it. Bethany had ruled our 127-home HOA for 8 straight years, long enough to turn the neighborhood into her own personal empire. Even her voice sounded sharp, fake, and calculated, like forced politeness hiding something rotten underneath. Her high heels clicked against the sidewalk with this slow, deliberate rhythm that made neighbors nervous before she even appeared. Most people treated that sound like a warning siren. The first incident happened only 3 weeks after we moved in. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning. I rolled my regulation black trash bin to the curb, exactly according to HOA guidelines, dropped Savannah off at school, grabbed coffee, and headed to work. Just another normal day for a single father trying to hold life together. But when I got home later that afternoon, it looked like a garbage bomb had exploded in my driveway. Coffee grounds were scattered across the pavement. Banana peels hung from the mailbox. Broken glass sparkled in the sunlight like tiny razor blades. The smell hit me instantly, rotten food mixed with motor oil so strong it made me gag. My boots crunched through the mess while I stared at the damage, realizing I'd lose another half-hour cleaning everything up and probably be late for work again the next morning. That's when Mrs. Cecilia quietly appeared by her fence, barely speaking above a whisper. She told me she had watched the whole thing from her kitchen window. Bethany had driven her Lexus straight into my trash can, backed up, and rammed it a second time like she was enjoying every second of it. She sat there watching the garbage spread across the driveway before finally driving off, like she'd just finished a normal morning errand. Rage hit me so hard I could practically taste metal in my mouth. This wasn't some random act of vandalism anymore. This was deliberate psychological warfare. Week 2 brought the exact same destruction, except this time I also found a $75 HOA citation taped to my door for unsightly debris, negatively affecting community appearance. By week 3, Bethany had escalated even further. I caught her slowly walking around my property with a measuring tape, documenting every tiny so-called violation she could invent. According to her notes, my grass was less than a quarter-inch too tall. My garden hose was visible from the street, and my mailbox numbers were positioned incorrectly. The pressure was wearing both Savannah and me down. My daughter started leaving for school extra early, just so she wouldn't have to witness another Tuesday morning trash explosion. Meanwhile, my boss had begun warning me about constantly showing up late to work. College application deadlines were getting closer. And instead of feeling safe in our new neighborhood, Savannah was watching our home turn into a battlefield. By the fourth week, I finally installed a security camera system. That's when I caught Bethany in the act with undeniable proof. Tuesday morning, 6:47 a.m. Her white Lexus rolled toward my trash can at almost exactly 15 miles per hour, fast enough to destroy it, slow enough to reverse and hit it again. The plastic bin burst apart like a piñata, garbage launching across the driveway in every direction. But the part that truly made my blood boil came afterward. She stayed parked there for nearly 30 seconds, engine idling softly while she admired the destruction she'd caused, then drove away with a smug smile on her face like she was proud of herself. That same night, I uncovered 3 disturbing facts. First, 7 different families had quietly moved away from Willowbrook estates over the last 3 years. Second, every one of them had been targeted with the same kind of harassment campaign Bethany was using against me. And third, every family shared something in common. They were minorities, single parents or newcomers unfamiliar with HOA laws and their legal rights. That's when my anger transformed into something colder and far more dangerous. Determination. Bethany believed I was just another exhausted homeowner who would eventually give up, sell the house, and disappear quietly. What she didn't realize was that she had picked a fight with a man who spent 20 years designing electrical systems, capable of surviving 20,000-volt surges, and I knew exactly how to build a solution powerful enough to send a shockwave. Right back at her. Week 5 brought Bethany's next move. What I started calling the citation blitz. I was standing in my driveway, around 7 in the morning, cleaning up yet another pile of garbage from the latest trash can attack, when I heard those unmistakable designer heels clicking down the pavement like some kind of execution march. The sound bounced off garage doors and echoed through the neighborhood, warning everyone nearby that Bethany Thornfield was on the move again. She walked up carrying a clipboard and wearing the kind of smile that somehow looked colder than outright anger. "Mr. Delroy," she said, intentionally mispronouncing my name like always, "I'm afraid we have a very serious issue." Then she handed me a citation for $125. The listed offense? Repeated violations of waste management, policy negatively impacting neighborhood appearance and property value. I stared at the expensive HOA letterhead in disbelief. "This is because I placed my trash can exactly where your own rules require it?" I asked. Bethany didn't even blink. "Your placement reflects ongoing non-compliance," she replied in that fake professional tone she loved using. "Your inability to prevent debris spread has become a repeated disruption to the community." Standing there surrounded by garbage she personally created while smelling her expensive perfume, mixing with rotting coffee grounds made the whole situation feel insane. She was literally punishing me for damage she caused herself. Behind me, I heard Savannah slam her bedroom window shut. By that point, she closed it every Tuesday morning so she wouldn't have to witness the humiliation outside. Then Bethany smiled wider, almost enjoying herself. "And if you choose not to pay," she said calmly, "property liens can become very expensive. It would be unfortunate if foreclosure issues interfered with your daughter's college future." That was the moment everything changed. She stopped being an annoying HOA bully and became something far more dangerous. That night, I approached the situation the same way. I approached complicated electrical systems by studying every detail until I understood exactly how it worked. Back during my apprenticeship, my mentor always used to say, "The smallest details can destroy an entire inspection if enforcement isn't consistent." Turns out the same logic applies perfectly to HOAs. I spent nearly 3 straight hours reading through bylaws, regulations, and community policies. What I found was deliberate vagueness everywhere. Endless references to community standards and acceptable appearance, but almost no precise measurements or enforceable definitions. Around midnight, I grabbed my flashlight and measuring tape and walked the neighborhood. while dead autumn leaves cracked beneath my work boots. 23 houses on my street had the exact same technical violations. Bethany was accusing me of trash bins positioned within inches of the curb, hoses visible from the road, mailboxes placed at nearly identical angles. Yet only 5 families had ever been fined: the Cecilias, the Rodriguezes, the Washingtons, the Kowalski's family who had suddenly moved away the year before, and now me. The pattern hit me like grabbing a live electrical wire. But during my little investigation, I uncovered something even better. Bethany's own property violated at least 17 HOA rules she personally enforced against everyone else. An unauthorized rose trellis, decorative mailbox modifications, painted address numbers that didn't match approved standards. According to her own bylaws, every decorative feature required approval from the Architectural Review Board, which, ironically, she controlled herself. I documented every single violation with time-stamped photographs, then quietly started speaking with the other families Bethany had targeted over the years. Mrs. Cecilia invited me into her kitchen one evening, though even the calming smell of jasmine tea couldn't hide how nervous she was. She threatened to fine us over our wind chimes, Mrs. Cecilia whispered, glancing toward the window like Bethany might somehow be listening outside. She said Asian decorations don't match the neighborhood aesthetic. The Rodriguez family told me similar stories during a quiet conversation beside their mailbox. Mr. Rodriguez, whose rough carpenter hands looked as worn and calloused as mine, actually trembled slightly while describing Bethany's surprise inspections and constant intimidation. "My kids don't even feel comfortable outside anymore," he admitted quietly. "She makes us feel like we don't belong here." That's when my electrician instincts really kicked in. I prepared a formal complaint using Bethany's exact citation format against her own property, complete with professionally organized photos documenting every violation. Then I officially requested an Architectural Review Board hearing regarding her unauthorized decorative additions, fully aware she couldn't legally approve her own violations without creating a fraud issue for herself. Tuesday came with the usual trash can destruction, but Wednesday night turned into something far more satisfying. Around 2 in the morning, I watched from my living room window while Bethany frantically tore apart her own yard under the beam of a flashlight, like some kind of panicked reverse burglar. The rose trellis vanished first. Then the decorative mailbox disappeared and got replaced with plain black metal. I could actually hear her breathing heavily across the silent street while she struggled to drag garden decorations back into her garage before sunrise. But the best part? Mrs. Cecilia had secretly recorded the entire thing from her kitchen window.